So funny story from the MVP Summit this year. The MVP Summit runs between Monday and Friday, a week of March. And, MVPs start arriving to Seattle, depending on where you're coming from. They start arriving to Seattle on Friday sometimes or Saturday before the summit just to get to know the city, especially if it's your first time. You want to make the most out of it. So we actually arrived in Seattle. I personally arrived on Saturday evening. So Sunday morning is the first time we actually kind of get together. Sunday we get together, but Sunday morning we got together for breakfast. So we all met at a spot downtown Seattle, and we kind of occupied like 3 or 4 tables or whatever it was. And I happened to land on the table with the French MVP. So I had Tanguy, Clément, and Julien were on my table amongst a couple of others MVPs, but I happened to sit right in front of them. And obviously, since Tanguy is the creator of the XrmToolBox, I get to ask questions about it and make suggestions, and obviously complain also, which I tend to do once I meet somebody who created something that I have some feedback on, or I have some thoughts about it, let's just say. So it's funny because I remember complaining about the fact, not about the XrmToolBox because I love it and you guys know this, but I was complaining about the fact that I keep on having these ideas for plugins, and granted, some of them are, I think, completely impossible, let's just say. But I keep having these ideas about plugins, but no one really takes me up on it. No one ever let's just get together and figure this out. And so I was complaining about that. I was saying, I was asking what's the best way to find somebody who wants to work with me and take me up on this. And Tanguy pretty much asked me, it's like, well, can you give me some examples, and at least I'll tell you if these ideas are realistic or if they're impossible. And the first example I came up with was a tool that allows me to set the active stage on business process flows in bulk. And this is a tool that I would use all the time. There's a lot of implementations where you import opportunities from other systems. You import opportunities from maybe Dynamics 365 on-prem, and you're going online. And these opportunities are already at any given stage under the sales process. Like, again, even if you're coming from Salesforce or from some other CRM solution, those records are already set at any particular stage of the sales process. So you always have the need to set a particular active stage in bulk instead of going through each opportunity at a time and do it. You can do it with a workflow. So I always had the idea of creating an XrmToolBox tool that allows us to do that. And I call this the Business Process Manager tool. So I just kept going on and on and on talking about this. And Tanguy said, yeah, technically it's possible. And Clément, who has created other tools for the XRM Toolkit, was there just listening, eating his delicious pancakes or whatever French thing he ordered. I was obviously eating bacon and stuff, I'm pretty sure. But he was just listening. He was quiet. He was just listening about my ideas, and I guess making a mental note of how he would do it, but he never really asked any questions or anything like that. So I didn't know where that was going to be, and I threw in a couple of other ideas that I had for the XrmToolBox. And I think a couple days went by, maybe Tuesday or Wednesday during the summit, I get this screenshot from Clément with the first kind of view to what the Business Process Manager would later become. And now that we've worked together for a few weeks to create this and make this a reality, we have it. It's available on the XrmToolBox. It's the first plugin I collaborate with Clément on, and I'm actually really looking forward to showing you what it does. If you implement Dynamics 365 for a living like I do, you find yourself in the situations where you really want to set the active stage on a business process flow, and you just have no way of doing that in bulk, at least not an easy way to do it in bulk. So let's switch to the computer. Let me show you what it does, and hope you enjoy this. Okay, so now that we're here on the PC, notice that I'm connected to a Dynamics 365 online trial environment with 44 open opportunities. Now, the reason why I brought you here is because I want you to notice that not all opportunities are owned by my user account. There's actually another user account, John Doe, that happens to have the salesperson security role. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because we're going to revisit this fact in a few minutes when we talk about custom business process flows. But what we're going to do now, and I created a personal view for this. Let me switch to that and let's run the results on this personal view. The reason I created this personal view is because I added the pipeline phase into this view. So you can see that all of these opportunities, all 44 of them, are sitting under the qualify stage, and they all happen to be on the out-of-the-box business process flow, the opportunity sales process business process flow. So we're going to switch to XrmToolBox, and what you're going to do here is that you're going to download and install the BPF Manager, the new plugin that Clément and myself created, and you're going to install it through the plugin store. Now, once you do that, you're going to open it up, and you're going to notice that all of the entities that are enabled for business process flows are added to this list. And notice that we get the display name of the entity and also the schema name of the entity. So even if you rename the entity, you should be able to find it pretty easily through here. So once I select that, I get the option to pick a view that I want to work with. Now, I could keep it simple and just pick open opportunities, but more than likely, if you're using this on a project, you're going to have a combination of opportunities. Perhaps you import it on top of a bunch of other data. So you're probably going to end up with personal views. And notice that personal views are hosted all the way to the bottom, or listed all the way to the bottom. So I'm going to select this personal view. Now imagine that you imported 1,000 opportunities and you want to map those opportunities to a specific sales stage on the process. If that's the case, even if the opportunities were coming from another system, you probably have kind of like an option set telling you which sales stage this opportunity should be on, or perhaps you want to use the probability to say anything under 25% is on the qualify stage, anything under 50 is on development stage, and anything above 50 will be proposed or maybe closing or finalizing, whatever it is. So you get to pick, what makes sense and create the views. So once you create the view, I'm going to click on retrieve records. Notice that we can confirm 44 records owned by 2 active users. And I'm going to select load BPF. Here you notice that you get a list of all the business process flows that are available for this particular entity. One of them is the out of the box one, opportunity sales process, which all the opportunities happen to be on, and the other one is a clone, which is a custom one. And again, we're going to revisit this one in a second, but for now, let's go ahead and select the opportunity sales process, and we're going to pick a different stage. So they're all in the qualify right now. Let's just pick propose for simplicity and click on migrate. Notice that we get how many records are remaining and also how long. There's an estimate on how long it's going to take. So this one will say it can take up to 60 seconds, but it should be like 15 in this case. It goes through them pretty quick. So you can see that we get a confirmation that all the records have been migrated. Let's go back down to advanced find and refresh. And you notice that now they are all sitting under the proposed stage. So they all have been moved. We can open a random opportunity here to confirm. And notice that we are under the proposed stage, and if we've been there for less than a minute. So that's how the XrmToolBox plugin BPF Manager works. Now, obviously, once you're done with all your work, you will close the tool and call it a day. All of the data remains behind. But again, sometimes you will be creating a brand new business process flow for your organization. And if that's the case, you can still run the plugin against an entity and select a brand new business process flow. So I'm going to pick up open opportunities for simplicity in this case, click retrieve records, load BPFs, and in this case, I'm going to select new opportunity sales process. Now notice that in this case, I'm going to pick another stage. So we did propose last, let's pick develop, why not? And I'm going to click on migrate. Now, before I click migrate, I want to remind you that John Doe is a salesperson. The salesperson role doesn't have permissions to this brand new BPF. And notice that we get a warning. It says, please make sure that all your active users have proper permission on the target BPF. But let's say we didn't read that because nobody reads those small letters, right, on warnings and anything like that. So we click on migrate. Well, the tool will still tell you that one or more users are unable to access the target BPF and that you need to make sure the permissions are set before proceeding. Now, at this stage, I can click on no, I don't want to proceed, and I can go back into the salesperson role. I can dig in further, find out what security role is being affected, make sure they do have access to the business process flow that I want to, set. or I can click on yes and just let the tool move through the process and do what it can, which means any opportunity that is owned by a user that has permissions to the record will be set. Any of the other ones will stay untouched. They'll stay on the old process, old stage, whatever you have. So that's pretty much how the tool works. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you use it in all your projects. This is something that, again, comes up often in implementations, and I'm super excited to present it to the community and to release it and get your feedback. So let us know how we did on the comments below. Make sure you share this with all your colleagues and all your coworkers and in any social media vehicle that you have. Let's get this tool adopted in the mainstream, and we'll see you when the next tool shows up.